In the last section, we put together our first persistent volume claim. Now, before we talk about what the spec stuff inside of here is, I want to give you a very quick reminder. Remember that a volume claim is not an actual instance of storage. A volume claim is something that we are going to attach to a pod config. So back in our example over here, we would take this volume claim that says, hey, I can get you a 500 gigabyte hard drive, and we attach it to our pod config. Then at some point in time, we take that pod config and we hand it off to Kubernetes. Kubernetes is going to see that storage option, it's going to see that volume claim, and it's going to try to find either a statically provisioned persistent volume or a dynamically provisioned persistent volume to meet the requirements of that claim. So all the config that you and I have now added in underneath the spec section is saying that if we attach this claim to a pod, Kubernetes must find an instance of storage, like a slice of your hard drive, that meets these requirements. So with that in mind, let's talk about what an access mode is. All right, so access modes. We get 3 different types of access modes. The one that we used is read, write once. Read, write once means that we want to get some instance of storage, like a slice of your hard drive, that can be used by a single node at a time. And to be precise, that single node can use it and both read and write information to that volume. We also get access to an access mode of read-only many, which means that multiple nodes at the same time can read information from this persistent volume. And then finally, read-write many means that we can both read and write information to this persistent volume by many nodes at the same time. Now, again, I want to really highlight the fact that the access mode that we put in right here says, if you attach me to a pod config and then hand me off to Kubernetes, Kubernetes is going to have to find an instance of storage that supports this access mode. All right, so let's now move on to resources down here. Now, I bet you can really guess what's going on here. So with storage, we're essentially saying that Kubernetes is going to have to find a storage option, either one that has been provisioned ahead of time or one that is going to be created on the fly that has at least 2 gigabytes of space. Or to be exact, it has to have exactly 2 gigabytes of space. We could very easily change this number around. You know, we can say 1,000 gigabytes or 4, 6, whatever you want it to be. But for us, 2 is way more than what is needed to put together our very simple Postgres database. In fact, you know, we're going to use like fractions of a kilobyte. So 2 gigabytes is way overkill for our application, but I just want to give you an example with a gigabyte option here. Okay, so these 2 options right here, pretty straightforward in nature. Again, they are saying, hey, Kubernetes, you have to find a storage instance that has this access mode, and it has to have exactly 2 gigabytes worth of storage. Now, there's a couple of other options that we can add into this file that we did not, because we're going to rely upon the defaults. But these other storage options that we did not list out are pretty important to understand. So let's take a quick break. When we come back to the next section, we'll talk about some other possible options that we could put into the spec if you had need to do so. So quick pause, and I'll see you in just a minute.